Good morning. My name is Xolisa Mabongo. I will be the program director for today. We welcome you to the OR Tambo building for this very important memorial for Ambassador Nathi Mthethwa. The Mthethwa and Buthelezi families, His Excellency, the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation of South Africa, Mr. Ronald Ramola, His Excellency, the Deputy Minister of International Relations, Mr. Alvin Botas, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Excellencies, Mr. David Martino, the Ambassador to South Africa, Reverend Mthembu, all the leaders who are present here today, ladies and gentlemen, we gather today to pay tribute to Ambassador Nathi Mthethwa. It is a time of grief and sorrow for all of us. As DIRCO, we have lost a leader who made his mark as our ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary to the Republic of France. In this diplomatic posting, he left an indictment, as well as the diplomatic community in Paris has unanimously recognized Ambassador Mthethwa's significant contributions, not only as a distinguished diplomat, but also as a brother, a friend, and a vigorous advocate for our shared global aspirations. For us at DIRCO, amongst other things, we shall remember Ambassador Mthethwa for his laser focus on economic diplomacy during his stint in Paris. One of his proudest moments and the legacy that he leaves behind was the successful organization of the South Africa-France Investment Conference in May 2025, which brought together businesses and venture capitalists from our two nations. We believe that this conference, for which he worked so tirelessly, will no doubt contribute significantly to the promotion of investments by French companies in South Africa and to the facilitation of market access for South African companies in France. Excellencies, colleagues at the South African Embassy in Paris found that working with Ambassador Mthethwa offered an exceptional opportunity to learn from his extensive experience. They tell us that his leadership was enriching and fostered a collegial environment at the embassy. Working under him, they say, provided pathways for professional development and growth while representing South Africa's interests and values. Paris is also a multilateral mission where organizations that are important for South Africa's foreign policy are located. This includes UNESCO, the OECD, and the International Energy Agency. Ambassador Mthethwa cultivated strong and deep relationships with these organizations in advancing South Africa's national interests. In the context of South Africa's G20 presidency in 2025, he managed to position our priorities in the work of these organizations. We visited France earlier this year on a G20 mission to engage these institutions. As a result of Ambassador Mthethwa's efforts, we had a successful visit, as he had already done much groundwork. Excellencies, this led to the three institutions, that is UNESCO, OECD, and IEA, being amongst the leading knowledge partners of our G20 presidency. Just last week in Cape Town, we launched, together with UNESCO, an AI for Africa initiative, which will be one of the key legacy projects of our G20 presidency. Through this program, over 15,000 public sector workers in the African continent will be trained in advanced AI skills. Throughout our presidency, the OECD has become a major resource partner across many thematic areas. One of the innovations of South Africa's presidency is the review of the G20 at 20 to prepare this important institution for the next 2 decades. The OECD is one of our main partners in this review of the G20 at 20. Regarding the International Energy Agency, they have been providing We therefore salute you, Nyambose, for this. The legacy of our G20 presidency is also your legacy. To the family, during this difficult time, we are reminded of the book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verses 5 and 6, where it is said, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. We therefore shall now begin with the program, and I would like to invite the choir to give us a musical item. Thank you. As we continue, I also want to take this opportunity to acknowledge the presence in our midst of the Speaker of our National Parliament, Ms. Thoko Didiza, as well as a number of ministers and former ministers of our government who are present here today. You are all acknowledged. We also recognize some of our ambassadors who are posted in other parts of the world who are here today. I will now invite Deputy Minister Bouters to do welcoming remarks.
Thank you very much, Program Director, Ambassador Mbongo, the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation of South Africa, Honorable Ronald Lamola, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Toko Didiza, Diplomatic Corps, heads of missions, ambassadors, high commissioners, consul generals, honorary consuls, and in particular, the Ambassador of France to South Africa, Ambassador David Martinon. Eminent persons, Ambassador Tenjiwe Mtinso, Ambassador Jerry Majila, and former members of South Africa's Foreign Service, the Director General Zane Dango, and members of the South African Foreign Service, the People's Movement, represented by the first Deputy Secretary General, Nvula Mokyani, the veteran of the liberation struggle, Amadela Kufa, Dr. Nkosinathi Zuma, Deputy Minister Andries Nel, the Member of Parliament, Dr. Malusi Gigaba, the Mthethwa family, Mr. Nathi Sipho Isaac Mthethwa, and Moruti Sipho Eric Mthembu, the family pastor, Tutu Zekane, Kilotu Madise Lotle, ladies and gentlemen, your excellencies, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary, accredited to France and Monaco, the Excellency, the late Ambassador Nathi Mthethwa, Unyambosi. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the season of light, it was the season of darkness. It was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity. It was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. We acknowledge today the solemnity of the occasion and the shared loss and our collective grief for an incandescent, extraordinary, par excellence ambassador. Today's tributes, ladies and gentlemen, your excellencies, will seek to share personal anecdotes and memories of our departed brother. Importantly, we will be appraised on his upbringing in the Mthethwa homestead. We will be informed of how he met his destiny as a freedom fighter, how he led, and how he was led in the Congress Youth League. His assignment as a political education commissar, we will be appraised of his distinguishable role as a member of the National Executive of both the African National Congress and of government. And more importantly, ladies and gentlemen, how we executed the 4 concentric circles upon which South Africa's foreign policy are premised on. Amongst others, the advancement of Pan-Africanism, the deepening of global South solidarity, our ambition to establish deeper cooperation with your more industrialized North economies, and the work on the transformation of global governance institutions and the deepening of multilateralism. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, your excellencies, indeed, there's a time for everything. There's a time to love and a time to die. A time to laugh and a time to mourn. Namslanje Nambosi. It is our time to reflect. It is our time to laugh. It is our time to honor you. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, Wamkilekile, we welcome you to the Oliver Tambo building, the home of South Africa's Foreign Service. Nkosi kakhulu. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, DM, for those wonderful welcoming remarks. As we proceed with the program, Excellencies, I will now invite Ambassador Bona, who is also a member of DIRCO and who's the acting DDG for the Americas and Europe, to come and make his presentation.
Program Director, Ambassador Mabongo, Honorable Minister Lamola, Honorable Speaker, Mayor Didiza, our former Minister, Dr. Nkosinathi Zuma, the Ambassador of France, His Excellency, Ambassador Martino, Deputy Minister Potters, DG Dango, distinguished guests, ambassadors and high commissioners here present today, my colleagues in DIRCO, both here present, and all our ambassadors and colleagues in all our missions abroad. I greet you also this morning on behalf of Branch Americas and Europe, under which His Excellency, the late Ambassador Mthethwa, served in the department. I wish to take this opportunity on behalf of Ambassador Dlomo, who is abroad on official duty at the moment, and all of Team Americas and Europe in head office and abroad, to convey our deepest condolences to the Mthethwa and Buthelezi family on the loss of your dear loved one, Ambassador Mthethwa. We would like to take this opportunity as the branch to thank the family for giving us the services of our distinguished ambassador, whom the program director has eloquently elaborated on his contribution to our foreign service in the execution of our foreign policy mandate in France and Monaco. I will not repeat what the program director has excellently elaborated. Mine is to say, in the short period of time that the ambassador has been with us, almost 2 years now, he has made a significant contribution in deepening our relations with France. He has also made a significant contribution also to our branch and our department. I remember fondly his recent contributions during our Heads of Mission Conference, which we hosted almost 2 months ago. I was impressed by his understanding of our foreign policy and his clarity on his mandate, especially our collective mandate, during these difficult and complex times in our geopolitics. He managed this complex terrain with ease. And of course, we were not surprised, because when he joined us, he was not wet behind the ears. He had years of experience and preparation in the various portfolios that he served. he did represent South Africa. He was a diplomat, even before he became one. So with these few words, I would like to express our deep gratitude and wish the family God's strength during this difficult period. As I leave this platform, I wish to refer the family and all our colleagues to a book that was written many years ago by a Mr. Viktor Frankl, who was incarcerated in the Nazi camps during World War II, when he related how he and other prisoners managed to survive the pain and suffering that they had to endure during their incarceration. I am not quoting him in verbatim, but his main message was, even in the most difficult of times, even in the midst of extreme suffering and pain, once you find meaning and purpose behind your pain and suffering, that is the beginning of the healing process. We pray to God to give the family strength and to enlighten the family on the meaning and purpose behind the passing of His Excellency, our late colleague, Ambassador Mthethwa, so that over time, the family's healing process can begin. Lala kahle nyambose. Sithi tutwini kusapho lonke lokwaMthethwa nelokwaButhulisi. Lalani ngenxeba. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ambassador Bona, for those wonderful words. In a changed global environment, we needed the skills and the diplomatic repute of the likes of Ambassador Mthethwa. We now move on with the program, and I'm pleased to invite the Honorable Member of Parliament, Mr. Malusi Gigaba, who is also the former president of the ANC Youth League, to come and give his remarks.
Honorable Minister, Honorable Lamula, Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Togo Didiza, Honorable Deputy Ministers, Honorable Deputy Minister Botes, and Honorable Deputy Minister Nel, Mama Dr. Dlamini Zuma, former Minister Zulu, DG of the department, the French Ambassador to South Africa, Your Excellencies, Ambassadors and High Commissioners, including South Africa's ambassadors abroad who are here today, bese ngokukhulu kuyithoba ngibingelele iphini lika nobhala jikelele wombutho wesizwe. Ngibingelele futhi ngokukhulu kuyithoba abathethwa odingiswayo. Ladies and gentlemen, the heavy burden of the solemn task we must this weekend undertake is increasingly weighing heavily on our souls. My friend and brother, your colleague, South Africa's chief representative in France, une title ke niyayibiza la ngoyilumulimi mangake ngizame yazi plenty potential nisho inkulu lento ngizoyinqamlela mina ngithi he was South Africa's chief representative in France and Monaco. He has already landed back in the country he so immensely loved, which he served with all his intellect and energy, and to which he was wholeheartedly devoted. As he embarks on his final walk back to his final resting place, on the land in which he was born, which provided him his first universe and shaped his consciousness and skills as a freedom fighter, we are aware of the difficult task which fate and the natural course of life has now bestowed on us. Nathi Mthethwa was a household name in South Africa, not for glamour or high office, but for his character. He rose from the impoverished rural village of Kwambonambi, a place denied basic rights, to become a leader of immense capability. His passion for justice, workers' rights, and the cause of the youth was forged in these early experiences of hardship. He was devoted to the cause of the urban working class and the rural poor and peasants, which underlined his deep convictions about the leading role of this strata in the pursuit for freedom and social justice. We met as young activists in KwaZulu-Natal in the ANC Youth League in the late 80s and early 90s. And since then, we forged bonds of friendship and brotherhood that have endured over decades. Even then, his dedication to the struggle was unmatched. In every role he held, from trade unionist to minister and subsequently ambassador, he served with humility, courage, and unwavering integrity. He never complained and consistently sought to serve South Africa. His tenure as ambassador to France reflected his commitment to international solidarity, and he represented our country with dignity, wisdom, and a clear vision for advancing South Africa's interests in a complex global landscape. Ambassador Mthethwa's legacy aligns with a timeless truth captured by Dr. Yusuf Dadoo, that history occasionally produces transformative leaders who leave an indelible stamp on their people. Leaders who provide both the inspiration for a new society as well as the practical means and tools with which to build it. We, the inheritors of Mthethwa's work, can confirm that he gifted us precisely that, a vision for a new and equitable South Africa, and the tools necessary to build it. Ambassador Mthethwa was a fearless and formidable debater and an organic intellectual whose clarity of thought made him indispensable to our movement and society. As the principal author of the ANC strategy and tactics, he provided a lodestar to our social transformation. In the youth organizations, he would insist on political debates after hours in the regional office in Durban, where we would debate on various topics, including negotiations, the balance of forces, trade unions, and the future of socialism post the Soviet Union, to mention but a few topics. He believed political education was the theory that guided our action. That is why Nyambose was so vital to our quest for political and organizational renewal and building of a new cadre whose conduct and thoughts resonated with the new type of society we are trying to build. Many underestimated his depth. Ambassador Mthethwa was a historian at heart, whose scholarship connected local struggles to global ones. He was a progressive internationalist who championed solidarity from Palestine to Western Sahara. His lectures, including the Oliver Tambo Memorial Lecture in 2015 and the Net Nakasa Memorial Service in New York 2014, revealed a man whose scholarship and insight were admired locally and internationally. Yet, he was also humble, full of warmth, and loved soccer, African jazz, and laughter. His devotion to friends and family was profound. I was privileged to be his best man and part of his Lobola negotiators and see the love he shared with his wife and family. These bonds were forged during difficult days which have endured across decades through both public service and personal milestones. When I resigned from Parliament in 2001, following the ANC Youth League's National Congress in Bloemfontein, he was the one chosen to take my place in Parliament. I had the privilege, as I have said, of being part of his Lobola negotiating team. Seeing him with his wife and family revealed a devotion that extended beyond every part of his life. I was also one of the speakers for his first wedding anniversary as well as 50th birthday. South Africa has lost more than a leader. We have lost an intellectual, a thinker, and a human being who gave his all. He was an extraordinary South African because he loved us so wholeheartedly. Farewell, my brother, Nyambos. Your voice will echo in our memories. Your wisdom will guide us. And your laughter will remind us of the humanity that sustained us in good and difficult times. In the words of O.R. Tambo, whom he admired since his youth days, you were indeed a colossus that was supremely human. Your name will echo across the centuries. Time will never erase your contribution to our struggle. Ambassador Mthethwa was truly a hero of our people, a champion for social justice and advocate for global peace, equality, and justice. He deserves all the accolades with which we have showered him since his impromptu departure, and all the praises which we shall in the coming days and years continue to shower upon him. I would like, as I conclude, to acknowledge our generation and, with your permission, Chair, and just ask them to rise, our generation of leaders of the ANC Youth League, who are seated over here together with our Secretary General, Phoebe Potgieter, our Deputy Secretary General, Themba Kinana. If you could please, we may not longer look like it, but at some stage we were young. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Dr. Malusi Gigaba. Thank you very much. Character, commitment to social justice, solidarity, loyalty, love. These are the attributes of Ambassador Mthethwa. I now have the privilege and the honor to call to come to the front and present her presentation the first Deputy Secretary General of the African National Congress, Ms. Nvula Mokyani.
Program Director, Honorable Minister Ronald Lamula, Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Deputy Minister Alvin Bottas, Deputy Minister Andrew Snell, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Ambassador of France in South Africa, National Executive Committee members of the African National Congress present here, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we all are gathered here in memory of a servant of our people, and on behalf of the African National Congress, the officials, the National Executive Committee, and our entire membership, I would like to convey our sincerest condolences to the Mthethwa and Buthelezi families. Gini na bonyambose sitha kwehlanga lungehlanga. Uma kuyintando kaNkulunkulu kulungile. We are deeply saddened by your loss and share in your grief. We thank you, Botingiswayo, for allowing Comrade Nathi to serve the movement and the people of South Africa. We gathered today here under the weight of sorrow, yet lifted by gratitude. Gratitude for the life, leadership, and enduring legacy of Comrade Nathi Mthethwa, whom we all affectionately called Unyambos. Today we remember not only a former ambassador, not only a former minister, and a long-serving member of the ANC, but we remember a revolutionary, a thinker, a cultural activist, a father, a husband, and a man whose every action was guided by the conviction that to serve the people is the highest honor of all. Comrade Nathi understood the discipline of struggle. He knew that the strength of our movement lies not in words alone, but in consistency, humility, and integrity. From his youth in the liberation struggle to his final years in the public service, he embodied the ANC's finest traditions: service before self, loyalty without arrogance, and vision anchored in the collective. In the midst of our own internal dynamics in the African National Congress, a few years ago, whilst we are all reflecting on what is to be done, Comrade Nathi said, and I quote, "The revolution demands not comfort, but commitment. It asks us to give more than we take, to build where others destroy, and to believe even when it is difficult to do so. To be committed even when you are doubted." These words capture who he was. A leader not seduced by the privileges of office, but grounded in the purpose of justice. He lived as he led, quietly, smartly, faithfully, and resolutely committed to the dream of a people-centered democracy. Comrade Nathi's political life was rooted in the conviction that our democracy must always serve as a vehicle for dignity. He rejected cynicism and worked tirelessly to align the state with the aspirations of ordinary South Africans. From the worker in the factory as a trade unionist, to the artist on the stage as a former minister, to the young person seeking opportunity, he led the youth of our country. He was a firm believer in the role of culture, heritage, and identity as instruments of unity and social renewal. He used his leadership not to divide, but to heal. to remind us that our strength as South Africans lies in our shared story and not in our differences. In celebrating Nathi's life, we are reminded of the enduring words of Nkosinathi, a brilliant writer and conscience of his generation, whom Comrade Nathi played an instrumental role in raising to the national consciousness. Nkosinathi once said, and I quote, "You either are alive and proud or you are dead, and when you are dead, you can't care anyway." And elsewhere, Nat warned, just being African in itself is almost illegal. Nkosinath's words, though written decades ago, remain profoundly relevant. They challenge us to be alive with purpose, proud of our identity, and vigilant against any form of injustice that seeks to diminish our humanity. Comrade Nathi lived in the spirit of that defiance, affirming through his work that being African is not a condition to be apologized for, but a heritage to be celebrated and advanced. And as we reflect on his discipline, we are reminded of the iron will of Comrade Harry Gwala, the Lion of Midlands, who once said, and I quote, "Revolutionaries do not retire. The struggle is a lifelong commitment." That was the ethos of Comrade Nathi Mthethwa, beyond his public service within the ANC, but also in the communities that he lived and served. Even when he stepped back from formal political office, he remained engaged, mentoring, guiding, and building. He understood that struggle is not only waged in rallies or parliament, but in every act that restores hope and dignity to our people. In honoring Nathi's legacy, let us not merely remember, let us recommit and renew this movement that he so dearly loved. Let his life instruct our present and guide our future through three enduring lessons: service over status, unity over factionalism, integrity over expediency, and determination to serve. To the Mthethwa, the Buthelezi, Nababa Gumbi, we thank you for sharing him with us. Your loss is immeasurable, but your pride is justified. He served with distinction, loved with sincerity, and led with purpose. To his comrades, may we honor him not by words alone, but by conduct that would make him proud. To the nation, let us remember that democracy is not self-sustaining. It requires daily renewal, honest introspection, and leaders who serve the people with open hearts and steady hands. And njengabantu, kasisuthu bari lifu lekopanya malapa. May South Africans step back from cynicism, from populism, and from every other thing that as Africans we never do when one of us has fallen. May we mourn with dignity and pride. May we give the space to the family and be there for them, and remember that lemini iyeza nakuwe. Comrade Nathi Mthethwa's journey reminds us that true leadership is not measured by years in office, but by lives touched, futures shaped, and values upheld. Let us, in his memory, recommit to build a South Africa that is proud, united, and just. A South Africa where, in the words of Nkosinathi, we are alive and proud, and where, in the spirit of Harry Gwala, the struggle continues with each new generation. Nyambose, your race was run with humility, honor, and dignity. Your example remains our guide. Personally, I'm quite grateful to have crossed paths with you. I remember that fateful night when nominations were open at the 55th National Conference. You were by my side, encouraging me to persevere when other candidates were looked for by those that were responsible for facilitating those nominations. For 47 minutes, you were with me. You stood by my side. You told me that every site of engagement in the ANC is a site of struggle. I'm quite humbled that today we are here to celebrate your life, and we have the African National Congress by your side, and majority of South Africans by your side, as you were by my side for 47 minutes during that difficult moment of uncertainty. Hamba kahle dingiswayo. Makagonsi bantsiba. Folozi emnyama ikhetha abaweli nabawelayo bayoyiqokelela. Rest in power mfowethu. See you in the morning. Thank you ngiyabonga mphathuhle.
I wish to thank Secretary General of the ANC for those remarks. A life of service, a life of commitment, and a life of purpose. These are some of the qualities that we will miss from Ambassador Nathi Mthethwa. As we continue with the program, I will now invite the choir to give us another musical item. Thank you. American poet and writer Maya Angelou, when she talks about death, she says, "And when the great souls die, after a period of peace blooms, slowly and always irregularly, spaces fill with a kind of soothing electric vibration. Our senses, never to be the same, whisper to us, they existed. They existed. They existed. They existed. We can be and be better, for they existed." It is for people like Ambassador Nathi Mthethwa that we think of these words. The next speaker in our program is returning home. She is the former Minister of the Department of Foreign Affairs and the former Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Dr. Nkosinathi Zuma. I would like to invite you for your remarks.
Desperate for answers. Thank you very much, Program Director. Ngiqale ngokubingelela ifamily yakamthetho oNyambosa. Minister of International Relations, Ronald Lamula. Deputy Minister and other ministers who are here that I may not have seen. Deputy Minister of International Relations, Alvin Potas, and other deputy ministers who are here. Members of the Speaker of Parliament and other members of Parliament. Utokotela Gigaba. Leaders of political parties led by our first DSG, Umama Action. Members of ambassadors, high commissioners, and members of the diplomatic corps, officials of DIRCO led by the DG, fellow mourners, members of the Fourth Estate, the media. It was with great honor and humility that I accepted to speak at this memorial service. We're gathered here to celebrate the life and times of Nathi Mthethwa, a dedicated public representative who made significant contributions to our country and to the diplomatic sphere. What lessons can we learn from Nathi Mthethwa's life? Let me say the first one is respect. Nathi respected everyone, young or old. Humility. Nathi was very humble. And respect and humility is very important in life generally, and more importantly, as a politician. Other lesson we must learn from him is revolutionary discipline. He was a revolutionary cadre of our movement with a sharp intellect. And he worked in KZN as an activist during very difficult and dangerous times, which needed discipline. He was also, the other lesson we must learn from him, very important lesson, he was brave. Bravery is not congenital, it's acquired. You choose to be brave. And he chose to be brave. So anyone can be brave if they choose to be. And for me, that's a very important lesson. To be brave, to speak the truth anytime, convenient or not convenient. But you say what it is. And Nathi could hold a conversation, political, intellectual, social, in any area of human endeavor. He could hold his own. And I also want to say he came from humble beginnings. His home is in Gwambonambi, deep rural area. So the lesson we must learn is that it doesn't matter where you come from. It's what you choose to do. You can reach any level coming from the deep rural areas if you set your mind and you work hard with discipline. We see it from Nathi. Ambassador Mthethwa was a respected leader, an anti-apartheid activist. And he was respected not only in our organization, but in the country as a whole. And the other lesson we must learn from him is passion. He brought passion in whatever task he was given. Passion, integrity, and he was visionary. And that's a lesson I learned from him, that without passion, you cannot succeed in what you do. Without integrity and a vision, the nation will be lost. Nathi Mthethwa, it was very appropriate to assign him as our chief representative in France. I'll come back to that later. I first met Nathi in 1990, so some of you maybe were not born. I met him as a youth activist. He was also a youth organizer, which was not easy, but he did it with dedication. He rose to be a part of the Youth League leadership and also the ANC leadership. And Nathi Mthethwa was also a public representative in Parliament. He chaired Portfolio Committee, Minerals and Energy. But where I interacted with him also was in Cabinet. And we worked very well, all of us with him, when we were preparing for the Soccer World Cup, 2010 FIFA World Cup. He was Minister of Police then. And his department, him and his team, played a vital role to ensure that our 2010 FIFA World Cup was a success. And we are grateful to him for that. Because he was in the board for the local organizing, which we all were in. And I also interacted with Nathi in an interesting situation. When I came back from Addis, I was sent to Parliament as a backbencher. And as a backbencher, I was allocated to 2 portfolio committees. One was small business and cooperatives, led by the then Minister Lindiwe Zulu. And the other one was arts and culture. And the minister there was Nathi Mthethwa. So I interacted with him as minister and me as a backbencher. And I enjoyed working with him. And I actually learned quite a lot from him as a member of that portfolio committee. But he also understood Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. And he knew that in arts and culture, he had to implement Aspiration 5 of that agenda. And aspiration 5 of that agenda is that we need a strong cultural identity, common heritage, shared values and ethics. And the goal of aspiration 5 is that Africa cultural renaissance is preeminent, inculcating the spirit of Pan-Africanism, tapping Africa's rich heritage and cultures to ensure that the creative arts are major contributors to Africa's growth and transformation. So he understood that and he lived by it. And of course, as an ambassador, sometimes people think being an ambassador is just nice, just going to cocktail parties but when you're an ambassador, you're not only representing the president, you're representing the government and the country. And when you speak, they don't say Nathi is speaking, South Africa is speaking. So you have to know and understand all the policies of the country, not just international relations policy, all the policies. Because as the ambassador, you can be asked on any subject about your country. And you have to be able to articulate those policies and keep up with developments. And Nathi was a perfect candidate to do that because he read, he debated, he taught. So he was a perfect representative, and I have no doubt that he did what he needed to do. And also, we pride ourselves about Ubuntu. And let me say, Nathi did not only understand the value of Ubuntu, but he lived it. And that's the lesson I take also from him. A lot has been said, so I won't be long. But I want us to just take a moment and reflect on his contributions and memories we shared with him. And may his example guide us as we service the people. And may we take courage from what we learn from him to strengthen and rebuild and build a brighter future for South Africa. But I can't help saying we are saddened by his sudden and tragic departure from our midst. There is a Catholic prayer that says, ngiyazi ukuthi ngiyokufa, kodwa angazi ukuthi ngiyofa nini, ngiyofelaphi nokuthi ngiyofa kanjani. And when I heard of Nathi's departure, that prayer came to my mind. Ngoba none of us, including him, ever thought uzofele France nokuthi angafa manje. We're still looking up to him, thinking he's going to live much longer and do more things for our country. But his race was short, but he did much more than many people who live longer than him do. So we have to be grateful for his life. And I have no doubt that he's now joined the galaxy of our heroes. Many of them, I'll mention a few. Nelson Mandela, Tumanokwe, Todd Machikiza, Winnie Mandela, Gertrude Shope, Betha Kowa, Walter Sisulu, Steve Biko, Peter Mkaba, Joe Slovo, Charlotte Maxeke, Fatima Mir, Lilian Ngoyi, and many others. And lastly, I want to thank Bodingiswayo for having surrendered one of your finest sons to the service of this country. And we can assure you that he was an excellent servant of the people. He represented Onyambose well in his 58 years. And I want to just conclude by expressing again my condolences to the Mthethwa family, to his wife, Upilisi Umapteles, his children, and the entire family. And may God and your ancestors give you strength during this difficult time. May his soul rest in peace. Nathi, Ambassador Mthethwa, till we meet again. Your service will never be forgotten. Ngiyalibuka.
Zuma, for those words of comfort to the family, but also for again expanding on the important qualities of Ambassador Nathi Mthethwa, an organic intellectual, someone with passion, respect, bravery. So as we move forward, and of course I must thank Dr. Dlamini Zuma for reminding that ambassadors don't only do cocktails, we also do some work. I'm now going to call the next speaker, the Ambassador of France to South Africa, His Excellency David Martineau.
Thank you, Ambassador. Your Excellency, Minister Lamola, Your Excellency, Deputy Minister Botes, Deputy Minister Andri Snell, Mrs. Speaker, Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, dear colleagues, it is indeed with great sadness that I take the floor today to recall the memory of late Ambassador Mthethwa. As the South African nation was stunned by his tragic passing in Paris, so were the French people. And on behalf of the President of the Republic of France, I wish to address my most sincere condolences to the widow of Ambassador Mthethwa, Mrs. Pilisewe Buthelezi, the ambassador's family and friends, and also to his fellow colleagues at the Embassy of South Africa in Paris, to the South African government, and to the South African people. Nathi Mthethwa was a seasoned and esteemed minister and ambassador. He was also a great friend of my country, of France. He was exceptionally committed to strengthening the bilateral relation between South Africa and France. He was extremely aware of how much our two countries share in common, from the attachment to democracy, freedom, and human rights, and, as you said, Ambassador, our global aspirations, to a dynamic trade relation, to name a few. So, merci, Monsieur l'Ambassadeur. Allow me to share a personal thought as I have extensively worked with Ambassador Mthethwa. From the day he learned he was appointed to Paris, he wanted to reach out to me, so we started a conversation which became a cooperation, which lasted until notably the preparation of the joint South African and French Business Forum, which took place in Paris in May of this year. The forum had the honor of welcoming His Excellency the Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, Paul Mashatile, who was greeted by His Excellency Emmanuel Macron, President of the French Republic, at this occasion. And I think it is safe to say that it was a milestone in our bilateral relation. We worked together with Nathi to make it happen, and the visit was a success. And obviously the ambassador's wit and perspicacity were of precious help in ensuring the success of the business forum. We had kept regular contact ever since, and until a few days before his passing, in particular to prepare the visit to South Africa of His Excellency President Macron for the G20 summit next month. He will be dearly missed in Paris. The ambassador's closed ones have traveled to France following his passing. The government of the Republic of France has fully cooperated with the government of South Africa regarding all issues pertaining to the ambassador's death. This has been done diligently and discreetly in the name of the friendship uniting our two countries. May this friendship remain one of the most vivid legacies of Emmanuel Nathi Mthethwa, and may his soul rest in peace. I thank you. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you, Ambassador Mthethwa. As the relationship between South Africa and France blooms well into the future, the marks made by Ambassador Mthethwa will always be visible and enduring. Before I call them again to give us another item, I wanted to announce the name of the choir that is doing us so much favor today. They are the Tshwane Gospel Choir. We thank you very much. Can we give them a round of applause? I therefore invite you again to give us another item.
Minister Baba Lamula. Siyabingelela baba. Umama Thogo Titiza, Speaker in the Parliament. Umama Dr. Nkosinathi Zuma, siyabingelela mama wethu. Ambassador zakhona, ministers zakhona, deputy ministers, Andre Snell. No mama ANC deputy secretary mama Nvula Mokyani, siyabingelela mama. Let me say all protocol observed. Ucabanga ukuthi sekufika lapho ngolisa lapho mhlambe sesiqala ukubona kahle ngempela ukuthi umfowethu akasekho. So umndeni mhlambe sisenakho lokho ukuthi ukukhuluma kuzobuye kushintshe ngendlela okwenzeke ngayo. Ngifisa kakhulukazi ukubonga indlela uhulumeni alisingathe ngaye udaba lukamfowethu uNathi nenhlangano yakhe ANC. Njoba ngithi sesiqala ukubona manje njoba sikula kule service kimi ngizwe ngifikelwa umunyu ngoba sengiyabona ukuthi umthetho impela ngeke sambona ngoba iservice njengale ayenzeki noma kanjani ayenzelwa futhi noma bani into esaphila. Kodwa ke konke ngicabanga ukuthi uNkulunkulu waziyo nangendlela okwenzeke ngayo siyahluleka ukukwamukela nokuqonda ukuthi kwenzeke kanjani, but now akusekho okunye ufuna sikwamukele. Ngifisa nje ukudlulisa amazwi okubonga egameni lomndeni wakwamthethwa nokwabuthelisi. You know, uma umzali ekhaya njengoba sikhona nje mhlambe iningi lethu sesikhulile la, you fail to understand or to recognize ingane yakho ukuthi yini ephiwe yona. Kwesinye isikhathi kuye ukuthi noma izinto iziveza ingane, mama, baba, ebusuku ngithunywe ukuthi anginitshele ukuthi nokuthi kuba nzima ukwemukela lokho ngoba wena kuwe uthi ingane yakho le. So lezi zinto esiqala ukuthi izikhombise noma ezikhulumayo ayi ngishiso yini lokho. uNathi ukhule ekhaya, wafunda esikoleni eMbabe, wadlala ibhola khona endaweni, wenza yonke into. Thina as family members mhlamba sikubonanga lokhu namhlanje sikuzwa sekukhulunywa lapha. Namhlanje sizwa izindaba ezinkulu usuyabona ukuthi le ndoda noma besibona kodwa ngokuthi umfana wasekhaya nje sometimes besingakunaki lokho. But today usuyabona ukuthi uNathi has contributed a lot esizweni sonke kuyizwe lase South Africa, even abroad. He represented us as a family. He represented his country. Mama Dr. Nkosinathi Zuma, usukhuluma amagama amaningi, ukhuluma ukuthi sifundeni kuyena. I think this is a challenge for abantu abasha abasahlalele umsebenzi ukuthi to take from where our leadership izoshiya khona le khona nesishiye khona baqhubeke nomzabalazo because impilo umzabalazo uyaqhubeka umile, but discipline, humanity and respect izinto lezo esizibonile kumfowethu nomama kade as articulate khona manje. Unathi ubethu mayifika ekhaya uma kwisikhathi sabo sokuphumula uzofika uyothi umbona bese ethatha isigqoko sakhe esifaka ekhanda ethatha induku ayishiye isecurity yakhe ekhaya angafuni ukuhamba nayo, ahambe nje yedwa, ahambe ngena imizi lapha ekhaya ababingelele hayi sengikhona kube kuhle, ahlale nabo aphume kuleli khaya angene kwelinye ikhaya, aphume kwelinye ikhaya angene kwelinye ikhaya bese egcinene bayatshela ukuthi hayi njengoba ngikhona ke ngiyacela ukuthi ngosuku oluthile ke nifike lapha ekhaya sizojabula nje sibe ndawonye, ikakhulukazi abantu abadala uyothola ugcwele umuzi uthe pha ekhombisa uthando lwabantu akhule phakathi kwabo, kungesiyena lo muntu ona pride ukuthi ngoba mina ngilapha phezulu nguminister noma ngiambassador so angisahlangani nabantu abaphansi, ilento umama aqeda ukukhuluma ngayo. We saw it. Unathi bengakhethi ibala lo muntu mayehlangana nawe ubona ngesmile insizwa kababa, smile alinsizwa sawu mfowethu kunjani bese khipha isandla nixhawulana. Kodwa ke today siyabona singabatwana bakaMthethwa ukuthi Unathi has represented us, not ikakhulukazi thina esisaphila, the ancestors of Mthethwa. Unathi has been the great hero and uzalwa amahero odingiswayo oJobe amakhosi akaMthethwa alele uthuni lomhlaba lawe ngikhuluma ngayo ilapha ephuma khona Unathi. Ngicabanga ukuthi okumenze nakho lokho ukuthi aze abe lo muntu abe yiyona is because igazi lakhe, igazi lasebukhosini. He grew up waba nawo le respect ukuthi umhlaba uyahlonishwa, hlonipha umuntu omncane nomdala. I'm sure the ancestors has assisted him ukuthi wonke ama responsibilities abenikezwe wona awenze with respect nangokwethembeka, ukukhombisa ukuthi uphuma ekhaya laseNdlunkulu. So siyabonga kakhulu nokuba namhlanje kunale service ekhona yokukhumbula umfowethu umsebenzi ayenzile. Nathi singabatwana bakaMthethwa siyabonga. Siyabonga, sibonga kuhulumeni because thina Unathi ubeyingane nje yasekhaya. Kodwa ANC ukwazile ukumbona wamthatha wamemukela wam-accepta njengalento ayiyona, wayesebona futhi ukuthi there is something ekhona kulo muntu okumele ukuthi asebenzele abantu base-South Africa nabantu nje basemhlabeni wonke jikelele. Siyakubonga kakhulu lokho ngoba mhlambe thina besingeke sikubone, kodwa ANC ukwazile ukubona wamnikeza lawo maduties ukuthi wawenza with perfection. Namhlanje kukhulunywa zonke indaba ezimangalisayo nezijabulisayo ukuthi le ndoda kanti umsebenzi ewenzile iwenzele isizwe mkhulu kakhulu. Sengcina ngiyafisa ukuthi ngisho lamazwi ukuthi to our own government and the ANC, the People's Movement, if I recall, ANC wabunjwa ngeminyaka yabo 1910. It was called African Native Congress. Injongo yokwakheka kwa-ANC kwakukulwela ukuthi umhlaba ungathathwa abokufika. Injongo kwakuwukuthi umhlaba wamakhosi ubuyele endaweni yawo nesithunzi sabantu abamnyama sibe lapho uNkulunkulu ayisidale sikhona. Kwagcina ke iAfrican Native Congress emva kweminyaka mhlawumbe emibili mangaphosisi African National Congress. Ngesikhathi kwenziwa lokhu ngicabanga ngikholwa ukuthi mangikhumbula kahle kunamakhosi aye ingxenye yokwakhiwa kweANC. Why ngikhuluma lento? Ngoba uANC uze wahamba wayekudingisweni. But umzabalaza awuzange ume waqhubeka. Wazi uANC kuba uvulwa umlomo. Abanye benu lento engikhuluma ngayo mhlawumbe abayazi babona nje sekukhona idemocracy abazi ukuthi isuka lapho lento esikhuluma ngayo. Abuye uANC ekudingisweni akubanga into elula imiphefumulo eminingi igazi laphalala South Africa. Ngoba abantu bokufika bamhlophe impact eyagcina beyenzile was very negative empilweni zethu as South Africans. Ngisho lokhu ngoba namanje ngiyafisa ukuthi ukuze senze ijustice kumfowethu nathi siuANC siuhulumeni. Ngiyacabanga ukuthi lento efanele ukuthi ilungiswe. Kunezinto uhulumeni noma uANC angakaze azafinyelele kuzona. Angazi noma kulahleka idirection noma kwenzekeni. I must say this. Angizokwelelwa kakhulu kodwa ubukhosi bakwaMthethwa bubukhosi boselwa. Umfowethu nathi uhamba nje lento lokho eyilwile silwa naye kodwa akazifika esiphethweni. Namhlanje we are talking 30 years of democracy. Ubukhosi bakwaMthethwa ubukhosi boselwa. Ubukhosi bakwaZulu bubonke njengoba bukhona namhlanje. Abukho abusibona ubukhosi engekho umthetho. The history must be corrected. The history must be corrected. Ubukhosi bakwaZulu bukhulele egcekeni kithi kwaMthethwa. Isilo uShaka unodumo ehlezi kaMenzi wayehlala ekhaya lapha oyengweni. Ewumfana wakhona engenayo enye indawo ikhuliswa inkosi uDingiswayo. Namhlanje kudlala ngisho ko TV lento eniyibukayo Shaka 11 ngicela ukuthi niyibona. Is the history but practically leyo nto akiyo ayinjengoba injalo. Why sifundisa abantu into ngesonqiniso? Why? Baholi. Why? So I want to leave this to the leadership, to the ANC organization to correct umlando wabantu abamnyama. Mangihambi imali phambili. Iqiniso lize ngemuva. Umama njengamanje uthi ukhuluma into ebiyenziwa uNathi. Kumele iqiniso. Be brave. These days, I want to say this. Ubukhosi bakwaZulu abukho and futhi inhlonipho yabo ayikeze ukuba khona engekho umthetho kaDingiswayo. Okuyena the founder owakha ubukhosi bakwaZulu. Siyacela izwe lakwaMthethwa namhlanje liphethwe abantu nje. Kodwa zikhona ingane zenkosi uDingiswayo. Nangu nathi sikhuluma ngomunye uphume ekhaya uNathi. Siyinzalo yenkosi uDingiswayo. Dingiswayo layilele khona. I'm sure namhlanje uNathi mayifika emakhehleni okhokho bethu bazombuza mfana, what have you done? Because you must know one thing, baholi bethu nje wanilapha nje. We are not working for yourself. Your ancestors are giving you this opportunity ukuthi nimele izwe. But at the same time, awukwazi ukuba muhle ngaphandle ungemuhle ekhaya. Lungisa ekhaya bese ulungisa ngaphandle, ulungisela abantu ngaphandle. kodwa nasekhaya kwenu khumbula ukuthi lento iyona khona abantu abakusekile okuyibona bakukhuphulayo kunenhloso ke njengoba bekukhuphula bakukhuphulela ukuthi ulungise izinto zabo. Ngithi ke ngicela nenze ifavor mama uNomvula noNkonyane, mama Nqamalala, baba Ronald Lamula, ngicela nenzele umfowethu ifavor ukuthi uma efika okhokho bethu bazombuza kulento, mfana, what have you done? Wena sikunikezile amandla waze wafika phesheya kwezilwandle ubuthi unze ubani zenzela wena ithini besiqhubha. Lento engiyikhulumayo angikhulumi inganekwane, ngikhuluma from experience. Njoba ngimla angimile ngephutha. It's been plan long time ago ukuthi ngiyoma la. Impilo ayiyona esicabanga ukuthi iyona. Ngiyacela ke ukuthi senzele umfowethu justice ukuthi lento yobukhosi bakwaMthethwa ake sisondele silungise ubukhosi bakwaMthethwa kubuyele endaweni yabo. Ukuze lensizwa mayifika lapha yakhona bese mabayibuza bese ithi hayi nakhwe kuyalunga khokho sekulungile. Iyobe isithola indawo yokuhlala kahle. Nathi sonke njoba sila masikhumbule ukuthi emakhaya lapho sivela khona silungise sisaphile ngoba mawusulele awusakwazi ukulungisa. Kuba yishwa ngiye ngithi ke mina ngane zakwethu ngiyiNazaretha ngokukholwa. Ngiye ngithi kuyishwa uma ngingakholwa namhlanje ngenze konke okuhle ngihambe ngesabatheni ngenze yonke into kodwa ngomhla wokuphela uma sengihamba emhlabeni ngingahlangani nobaba mkhulu noma ngingahlangani noNkulunkulu ngoba engikwenzile bekuyize ukukholwa kwami ngisaphila. Njengoba ngiphila ngiphilela la abangasekho njengoba ngikhona nje. Ngiyabadinga abangasekho nabo njengoba bengalena nje badinga mina engiphilayo. Because bona njengoba bengalena nje abasakwazi ukuvuka bezokwenza izinto amaphutha abawenzayo. But babeke mina ukuthi ngikwazi ukushanela ngibalungisele amaphutha abo. Uma ngenze njalo ngiyofika ngale bangihlangabeze bethi mfana wasebenza uyindoda. Ngalawo mazwi ngiqonda ukusho ukuthi njengoba sikhona asizimele thina. You don't represent yourself. Unathi represented family yakwaMthethwa neyakwaButhelezi and nesizwe sonke sase-South Africa. Kodwa makufika umhla wokuphela we have to answer imibuzo ethile. Uma ungenzanga kahle okwakho lokho. Isicelo sami ke baholi. Ngixolisa ukuphuma kancane kodwa nje ithuba leli ngilitholayo engicabanga ukuthi bengeke ngilithole. Mhlawumbe bakhona balenza ukuthi livele leli thuba. Lento yesizwe sakwaMthethwa isibe yicrisis iminyaka nyaka. Ake silungiseni umlando. Inkosi udingiswayo, inkosi eyayinothando, inkosi eyayibathanda abantu. Ngisho ngabe isiyinqobile enye inkosi kodwa wayethi amakhosi angabulawa ebese kuthiwa wena uzoba induna yami nazi inkomo uzokondla abantu laba namakhosikazi nezingane. Kodwa namhlanje isihlalo sikadingiswayo sihlela abantu hayi izingane zikadingiswayo. Ngiyabonga ngiyacela umfowethu uNkulunkulu nokhokho bethu namhlanje bamhlangabeze bememukele njengoba yonke lendlu nabantu esibabona befika ekhaya bengena bededelana bayakhomba ukuthi lensizwa isebenzile. Siyamcelela nathi uMthethwa uJobe kakhaya udingiswayo uthoyisa kozoka usombanga yakandaba ugakhana uthi ndibusifazane ebunjini bathi basonto baxamalazi. Siyacela Mthethwa ukuthi uNkulunkulu namakhehla akithi kwaMthethwa akuhlangabeze inyambosi ngoba sesiyabona impela ukuthi hayi usushilo. Ngiyaxolisa uma kukhona lapha engithinte khona kabi. Ngiyaxolisa kakhulu bengesiyona inhloso kodwa siyafisa ukuthi izinto zilungiswe zibuyele endaweni okuyona yona. Ngiyabonga.
We thank Ubaba Mthethwa for that powerful message to our leaders and his tribute to Ambassador Mthethwa. A lifelong commitment to the struggle, a family man, is what also defined Ambassador Mthethwa. Bo nyambose, o bo dingiswayo siyaphinda sithi akuhlanga lungehlanga. As we move towards the end of our program for today, I really want to take this opportunity to invite Minister Ronald Lamola, the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, to give the keynote address for today. Minister, you have the.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ambassador DDG Mabongo. Umndeni kaMthethwa nabakaButhelezi, the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Deputy Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Alvin Potts, the Deputy Minister of Justice, Honorable Nal, the ANC Secretary General, Comrade Nvula Mokyani, Umama Nkosinathi Zuma, the former chairperson of the African Union, and also various roles in our government, the Director General of the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, former ministers, former Minister Zulu and Lodlo, and other colleagues I might not have seen, former Ambassador Jerry Machila and other ambassadors, former ambassadors who are here, the Acting Deputy Director General for Europe and Americas, Ambassador Bona, the Dean of the Diplomatic Corps, His Excellency Ambassador Abdou, the Ambassador of France to South Africa, Ambassador David Martino, and all ambassadors, high commissioners, and all heads of missions, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Umndeni kaMthethwa nakaButhelezi sithi akuhlanga okungehlanga. Umama uphilisiwe Mthethwa Buthelezi naye sithi kuye dudu. Sithi Nkosi ayinikeza amandla ukuthi nikhona ukudlula kulobunzima enikupho. Our gathering here today is a somber reminder that Ambassador Nkosinathi Emmanuel Mthethwa is no more. More than a week ago, our nation received the harrowing news of Ambassador Mthethwa's passing. With this news, hordes of people who loved and shared pivotal memories during his life with him as a son, a father, a husband, brother, colleague, friend, comrade, and diplomats were confronted with the unimaginable grief and deep sense of sorrow and loss. The news of his passing shook us all profoundly, reminding us of the fragility of life and the fleeting nature of time. We have indeed suffered a monumental loss. At the time of his departure, the ambassador had been serving as our highest-ranking diplomat in France, South Africa's ambassador extraordinary to France, and accredited to Monaco. As the president remarked in his tribute, amongst Ambassador Mthethwa's achievements in this role, which he had occupied since 2023, we count the deepening relations between South Africa and the Republic of France, and advancing our contribution to transforming global power relations. In paying homage to the ambassador, His Excellency Jean-Noël Barrot, the Minister of Europe and Foreign Affairs of France, described him as a friend of France and lauded his contribution to deepening the ties between our two countries. I pause for a moment, Ambassador David Martino, to thank the government of France on behalf of the government of the Republic of South Africa for your cooperation and support since the untimely departure of Ambassador Mthethwa. You supported us. You also supported his family from that moment until his mortal remains departed last night. I can confirm that Ambassador Mthethwa's mortal remains have now landed in the Republic of South Africa. He will shortly be en route back to KZN, where he will be laid to rest in his lovely rural area of Gwambonambe. Since South Africa and France normalized relations in 1994, our two countries have enjoyed warm and enduring ties, demonstrated by regular exchanges and dialogues on political, economic, and defense issues. We've exchanged ideas and built trust through regular political and economic diplomatic engagements. France has become one of South Africa's key economic partners. Trade between our countries has grown steadily since the pandemic. South Africa remains the leading destination for French exports to sub-Saharan Africa. Accounting for 16% of the total, French exports are led by chemicals, cosmetics, perfumes, and followed by industrial and agricultural machinery. France, in turn, imports transport equipments, vehicles, hydrocarbons, avocados, steel, precious stones, aluminium, also cooperation on nuclear with South Africa. These exchanges reflect more than figures. They tell a story of partnership, respect, and shared progress. It was within this dynamic space that Ambassador Mthethwa worked his quiet magic. One of his last acts of quiet magic was coordinating the South Africa's Investment Conference in Paris, in France, led by Deputy President Paul Mashatile in May this year. Since its inception in 2018, this investment forum has seen French companies commit over 70 billion South African rands in sectors such as renewable energy, generation, manufacturing, retail, agribusiness, and services. Through skill and patience and conviction, Ambassador Mthethwa deepened the bond between our two nations and opened new paths for cooperation and understanding. During our last political consultations in May with my counterpart in France, Minister Bona, there's one topic that Ambassador Mthethwa really enjoyed. It was the discussion that was very robust on the question of Western Sahara. He enjoyed this discussion because a month or so before we had these political consultations with France, France had, during a debate in Parliament, begged the authority of Morocco over Western Sahara. So as I arrived in France, he said, Minister, before I give you all the briefing, the first one is Western Sahara. Then we can have all these other discussions. And he ensured that this becomes one of the issues that there were robust engagements with the French authorities in our engagements. They remained with their position, but we affirmed South Africa's positions on our support for Western Sahara, for their self-determination. And we explained the grounds of the government of South Africa's position with regards to Western Sahara self-determination policies, given our history and the various rulings in international platforms and international law, including the UN Charter. But our relations with France remains cordial, and we had a lot of agreements, including the investment drive by the Deputy President that followed a week after this engagement. Ambassador Mthethwa's journey in service of the South African people was long and a daunting one. I was also fortunate when I came into cabinet. He was one of the ones who were appointed long before some of us. and we were young, we saw him as a political commissar of the ANC Youth League. So I didn't expect that he will still be a commissar in cabinet. So after I was sworn in, he greeted me differently, because we used to greet each other as comrade, and I will just say Nyambus, and he will say, yeah, Comrade Lamula. But after I was sworn in, he changed, and he called me Holodwe. I said, where did you learn Xitsonga? He said, no, remember I was deployed at the constituency in Bushbuckridge. So during my time there in Bushbuckridge, he had some basic understanding of Xitsonga. So he called me Holod, and he said, because now you are a minister, I'm no longer going to call you comrades in these corridors. I will call you comrades in the rallies and in the ANC. I thought this matter will end there. In our first meetings in cabinet, not only Nyambus, but most of the senior comrades, because ourselves were still new, we didn't know that in cabinet you don't say Comrade Nkosinathi, you don't say Comrade Nathi. So I was saying comrade, they say, yeah. There is no comrade here, minister. Then after 2-3 minutes again, the tongue slips. They say, yeah. Then I look at Nyambus, because he was also not sitting far from me. I was hoping that maybe he's going to bail me out of this. He says, hey, remember, I told you are now Holod. So I understood that, oh, that is what he was telling me after the swearing in, that now there is a cabinet etiquette that you are now expected to abide to. And we can call each other comrades outside this platform. So that was a good lesson that I learned, and I can tell you now that it now comes natural in cabinet to say Minister Zuma, Minister so and so. But it also comes natural that when we're outside, I can now say comrade. But it's not an easy thing when you are arriving. And I was not alone. Even my other younger ministers, they will also sometimes have this slippery of the tongue. And they will be called to order to call minister so and so. And we have learned from that. So this reflected a good generational mix that our society needs to move forward, to learn from the experienced comrades, but also to come in the younger generation to infuse a sense of agency in executing the national democratic revolution. As an activist and as a member of parliament, as a former minister, and recently as an ambassador, ourselves as the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, we want to thank the Mthethwa family for having allowed him to be an ambassador. And he transcended beyond being a cabinet minister into being an ambassador. As Ambassador Mabongo was saying, it's not the same. It sounds the same, like it's a public representation. But the roles of ambassador, they differ. And sometimes you have to receive your former cabinet colleagues. Nyambus used to do it in France. He received me on my first visit. And also when I asked other colleagues, he used to do it. And it was only when it was practically impossible that he would not do it. But he executed his duty of being an ambassador, of serving with humility, and also the Deputy President, Paul Mashatile, appreciated his role when he did the investment drive. He didn't mind that there are some now, like ourselves in cabinet, who might be junior to him. But he felt that his service to this country supersedes anything. He is now the ambassador representing the President of the Republic of South Africa. And he did this job without any qualms. When there were issues, we will interact with Nyambus, guide each other, agree and disagree. But he will speak his politics. We will also give ourselves, him, our own context on the issues and the duty that he was supposed to do, and also carry and give him instructions, which he carried without any questions once a decision is made, as an ambassador of the Republic of South Africa. And he did the same for President Ramaphosa. He will execute all instructions and tasks as per what ambassadors are expected to do. And for that, I can hear from Ambassador Mthethwa, where does that come from? The upbringing and all those made it possible for Ambassador Mthethwa to play the role of transcending from being a minister into an ambassador, which I emphasize is not the same. It sounds the same, like it's a public representation, you are representing South Africa, but the roles and tasks are hugely different. So we are very grateful, but I also want to thank our staff in Paris who were holding the fort since his departure. They attended to all issues and made sure that all the procedures and processes in France are taken care of, but also in the head office, as they were led by the DDG Lomo. She is not here today. She will have been here, but I left her last night in Brussels. She is continuing with the task because she is responsible for Europe and the Americas. I was fortunate to get a lift from the president to arrive this morning. So, but she is still there. And we also want to thank the DG, Dengo, also for his guidance to all the staff. During this has been a very difficult period for the staff in the mission in Paris and also in the department, but they have been holding the fort and they will carry on. The struggle continues. Ngalawo mazwi ngiyabuyela futhi kokaMthethwa nabakabuthelezi sithi dudu akwehlanga okungehlanga unyambosi makalale ngekuthula uma senimbeka endlini yakhe ekugcina kombonambi ngesonto elizayo. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you very much, Minister, for those words. The transitioning between different roles, especially at that level of leadership, requires the type of humility and commitment to service that Ambassador Nathi Mthethwa had. The Minister has already thanked the DG, as well as Branch Europe, colleagues from protocol, from public diplomacy, and all other parts of the department that contributed to making today a success. We appreciate the work that you did, colleagues. Before we call the Reverend to give a sermon for today, I wanted to mention that Ambassador Mthethwa worked closely with the United African Royal Assembly. And here today they are present, represented by His Imperial Highness, Prince Stephanos Matthäus from Ethiopia, and he comes with a delegation. So we acknowledge their presence here. I will now take this opportunity to invite Reverend Mthembu, who will give us a sermon for today, as well as the closing prayer. Thank you.
Minister, Babulamula, and all protocol observed. Ikwaya isinayo. Umndeni wakabuthelezi nomndeni wakwamthethwa nizihambele zonke sikhona. Iyabingelela egameni lenkosi yethu. Amen. Angikwazi ke mina ukuba ngibize ngiyikhundla ngani ngoba ngijwayele mina abagcotshwa. Lokho okuyinokuhle kwaseParliament ngiyakuzwa nje kodwa ngiyakuthanda manje kuzongehlula. No dokotela ke uGigaba umntana umfundisi. Angazi umsehambile ngoba ngabe ngizobingelela yena ngoba umntana umfundisi. Lapha sisenkonzweni kadingiswayo uNathi Mthethwa kade ekhuluma lapho umama uDlamini Zuma ekhuluma ukuthi umbonile semncane lapha ya ekhula kulombutho omkhulu wakithi eSouth Africa. Umbutho wethu sonke siuphathe kahle. Unathi lokho ebekwenza usuka nakho ekhaya. Noma kwehle kabi uma kufika lesi sikhathi sokuthi uNathi usesishiyile kuphume kabi kwacishe kwasibulala ngani ngoba kwafika uqala singakakezwe ukuthi kwenzekeni ngoNathi. Kukhona izinto eziye zenzeke lapha eindabeni zethu ukuthi singathintanga ifamily kuqala kusheshe kuzwakale ezweni kuzobulala abantu abaningi. Nokho ke sesiya ngokubekwemukela ukuthi uNathi usesishiyile. Njengoba ngime lapha nje sengikhumbula nosuku olukhulu lomshado wakhe gcaca ekhaya imina engangiyilida njengoba ngiyilida yakhe futhi nasenkonzweni. Amen. Lapha enkonzweni bethi mayifika ngayizolo ebusuku bese report ezothi mphathi ngifikile njalo ebusuku ngizofika kuwena kukhona enguphathele khona okumnandi. Kuthe makwehla kumina ukuthi uNathi usesishiyile kwafika nezinyembezi ukuthi awu pho ngoNathi umntwana kaNkuluNkulu olunge kangaka ngabe kwenzekeni. Kodwa ke uNkulunkulu uyazi. Kade besho abaculi lapha bethe angeke asishiye angeke asidele uNathi namanje. uNathi ke singiqala emuva nje bekade ekhuliswe ngendlela ethile ngoba uqale izinkomeni elusa. Ngangiyingqwele kuyena ngoba ungilandela nje le kude kakhulu. Ngikhatha nabanye abafana stick fighting. Shani into bese bonke ubani oyihluliwe. Inhlonipho uyifundela lapho ngoba washawa. Wakhula nayo lento ukwazi ukuthi umuntu ufanele umhloniphe. Lento ephelayo namhlanje emhlabeni. Your respect is very important. Ngizocela kodwa ke ngoba sengizele lokhu njengamanje ukufunda kwezwi engizolenza umphako kaNathi. Bekukhona incwadi noma iculo lakhe belithanda kwezama Nazaretha ngoba uli Nazaretha uNathi. Khona isihlabelelo sakhe besithanda esithi lapha ngizawuqala ngisixoxe sithi hlala nathi inkosi yethu leli langa lidlulile siyacela kuwena. Ebeyathi njalo masihlangana naye bese ecule bese phakamisa isandla sengathi sekuse lapha kwiorganization uNathi ngoba ebethi noma edlula ebeyisho lento nathi ethi noma ngedlula mphathi wami uzukubeke lokho. Njengoba wakwenza nasemshadweni wami wangilida wengishintshanisa yonke into ukuthi ngenze njani noma kwenzeka ini. uNathi ungathi kwesinye isikhathi bebuyabikelwe ukuthi isikhathi lolu suku aluyona inkinga aluyona futhi ingozi. Bekwazi ukuthi mhla ka10 sizobe simeka la sikhuluma ngoNathi. Kodwa thina asikubonanga lokho thina basemhlabeni. Sengathi singathi uma sihamba emhlabeni ke sicabange ngelinye ilanga ukuthi kambe ngiyohamba kanjani emhlabeni ngizohamba kanjani sithi esikwenzayo sicabangela ukuthi kukhona usuku olusihlalele sonke sehambile uNathi ngizocela incwadi lapha yabase Galatians 6 verse 4 to verse 6 ngizawuqala ngifunde nje ngesingisi ngeEnglish ngoba kukhona nodokotela lapha. Ithi but let every man prove his own work, and then shall he have rejoicing in himself alone and not in another. For every man shall bear his own burden. 6. Let him that is taught in the word communicate unto him that teacheth in all good things. And isiZulu iti kepha akube yilowo nalowo ahlole owakhe umsebenzi yikhona eyakuba nokubongwa ngokwakhe yedwa kungekho komunye umuntu ngokuba yilowo nalowo uyakuthwala owakhe umthwalo. Ake yena ufundiswa izwi makahlanganyele nalowo mfundisayo kuzo zonke izinto ezinhle. Amen. Lencwadi ngiyayifundela uNathi nathi sonke thina ngoba yena akasezwa manje ngezindlebe lezi zethu kodwa usezwa ngomoya ukuthi konke sikwenzayo siphile emhlabeni sizenzela thina ikhona siyobonga ngakho mase sidlule njengoba ebonga uNathi namhlanje. Hulumeni wase South Africa siyabonga sibonga kakhulu umsebenzi eniwenzile kithina singaba kwaMthethwa nakuNathi uqobo lwakhe ukuba nikhombise ukuthi nimbonile uNathi imisebenzi yakhe emihle. uNkulunkulu azanibusise. Sesinibheka ngelinye ihlo manje ukuthi kanti lo hulumeni ubhekelela impela abantu. Uyabazi futhi abantu kade nabo. Uyayazi nemisebenzi yabo. Sengathi ke ngaba njalo. Ukuze izwe lethu lilunge sonke masinakane sithandane ukuze kuthi uma kufika isikhathi ezinjengalezi sibumbane. Namhlanje na ezweni lakithi kwaMthethwa ezweni likadingiswayo kukhulunywa izwe elilodwa ukuthi ayi uhulumeni wethu wase South Africa wenze umsebenzi omkhulu usikhombisile. Namhlanje na sizobona ucategory 2 ezweni lakithi kwaMthethwa kumabhundusi akwaMthethwa. Siyabonga kakhulu. uNkulunkulu anibusise. Sengathi ke lokhu namhlanje na okumehlela uNathi akusekhona kwethu akusadingi silokhu sinamathela sibuza ukuthi bekwenzeke kanjani kodwa uyena uNkulunkulu waziyo. Kuphela umthetho simfisela into eyodwa ukuthi akahambe ashiye ezasemhlabeni izindaba. Awashiya amabibi asemhlabeni ahambe ekhaya esilisebenzela lo sonke izulu noNkulunkulu uJehova owasiletha kulomhlaba. Sengathi ke angathi mayifika phambili ehamba nalemthwalo yakhe ayenzile emhlabeni emihle imisebenzi yakhe emibi ngoba umuntu mayihamba emhlabeni uba nayo yonke imisebenzi emihle nemibi kodwa ungaqami emibi kuqame emihle. Kube yiyona zafuthi mayifika phambili ngesikhathi sokwehlulelwa afika ibeke bese kuthiwa usebenzile ndodana. Uya ke emndenini uzawudlula emndenini wakubo kwaMthethwa adlule emndenini inkolelo ke esinayo thina ma-Africans ukuthi siyawudlula emndenini yonke be ngaphambi kuba siye kuThixo. Sengathi ke ngathi mayifika phambili bafike bamtuse bathi Mthethwa siwazwile amagalelo akhe emhlabeni usebenzile bese bemnikeza isihlalo lapha ezohlala khona ebese buya umoya wakhe uzokhuluma nathi esasele emhlabeni azosifundisa uma besinyamabatha bese siyalunga nathi siwaqondisa amabatha ethu ukuze kulunge kahle umhlaba njengoba sibekiwe nje lo hulumeni njengoba ekhona nje uyawazi uNkulunkulu. Uyawazi uNkulunkulu uhulumeni okhona eSouth Africa. Futhi okuyothi ngomhla kuphela bese buza futhi kuthini ukuthi baphathi niphathe kanjani, nibaphathe kanjani abantu bami. Singathi masiphethe, siphathe sazi ukuthi sibe nonembeza. Ngalawo mazwi siyabonga kakhulu. uNkulunkulu anibusise. Kuthi konke kusazoqhubeka sesiyombeka uNathi la azalwele khona aphumule ngoba usebenzile. Inkosi ibusise lawo mazwi. Bengithanda kodwa ukuhlabelela isihlabelelo sakhe amavesi anyana ivesi elilodwa nje sithi hlala nathi Nkosi Nkosi yethu awulelanga awuledlulile ledlulile lelilanga awuledlulile siyacela ube khona siyacela ube khona awusisibheke kuwe njalo uwe njalo sesibheke kuwe njalo kuwe njalo sesibheke kuwe njalo Pray. Okay. Ngizocela ke kuba sivala amehlo sithandaze. uNkulunkulu wobaba nobabamkhulu, uNkulunkulu wamakhosi ezwe lakithi, uNkulunkulu weAfrika, Shembo ingcwele, silapha Nkosi yamakhosi emsebenzini omkhulu wokukhumbula leli qhawe eladabuka ezweni lamakhosi akwaMthethwa kodingiswayo uNathi osedlulile kulelizwe. Siyawubonga kuhulumeni Nkosi yamakhosi okuyibone behleli nawo namhlanje na uyambonga umethulela isigqoko ngokuba namhlanje kuzokhulunywa ngaye ukugcina inyama yakhe isephezulu kwalomhlaba. Sicela ke Nkosi umphefumulo wakhe Nkosi yamakhosi ongasekho kulesi sidumbu ukuthi mawudlula Nkosi yamakhosi la kulelizwe usiya kuleli yazwe lokwenama ebese ibona imisebenzi yakhe emihle. Yenza ke nalelizwe lakithi Nkosi libe nokuthula, libe nokubumbana, liqhubekele phambili, lisebenzele isizwe sikadingane nosenza ngakhona. Sicela konke egameni lonyazi namanje zobe phakade. Amen. Nkosi sibusise.
Siyabonga kubaba uMthembu for those wonderful words of comfort and consolation. We have now come to the end of our program. I wish to take this opportunity once more to thank the minister, the deputy minister, and all the leaders that came to grace this very important occasion. We thank you very much And we again say to the family, yakwadingiswayo, onyambose, akuhlanga lungehlanga. May we ask our colleagues from protocol to escort our dignitaries. Thank you very much. We have come to the end of the meeting, so we are closing it now.